Folks, I'm about to burst a very big myth because most people think data is something only tech companies care about. Wrong, that's not true. Almost every modern system you rely on exists because someone, somewhere, organized information better than everyone else. But here's what nobody's telling you: organizing information isn't the last step, it's the first step of a much larger chain, a chain that ends eventually at a civilization itself. By the end of this video, you're going to see that exact same chain everywhere. So, let's build it one link at a time. For a minute, forget the word data because it sounds technical. But if you actually give it a second thought, it's not that complicated. Data is just information that's been written down in a useful order. A grocery bill, for example, that is data. A record of what you brought and what it actually costs you in case anyone ever needed to check. Google Maps, that is data. Location information that is so organized that you can find your way through a city you have actually never seen. A hospital file, that is data. Your allergies and prescriptions written down so a stranger in a white coat can treat you safely. Notice something in every one of these. Data is never the object, it's the organized information sitting behind the object. The bill isn't the point, knowing what was brought was the point. That's link 1 in the chain. Raw reality, a purchase, a location, a symptom becomes information the moment someone writes it down, and information becomes data the moment it's organized well enough to be useful to make a decision. Reality, information, data. That's the chain. Simple so far. But here where it stops being simple and starts getting more complicated. Stop thinking about companies for a second. Let's go on to think about yourself. For example, your name, that is data. Your birthday is data. Your fingerprint, your blood group is data. Your salary is data. Your school marks card or your college report card, that is data. Your passport number is data. Your driving license is data. Your face, the exact distance between your eyes and the shape of your jaw, that is data. Even your voice, the specific way you pronounce a certain words, that, ladies and gentlemen, is also data. Sit with that for a second. You're not a person who occasionally produces data. You are, from the point of view of every system around you, a walking, breathing collection of data points that happen to be temporarily wrapped in skin. The hospital doesn't see you, it sees your file. The bank doesn't see you, it sees your transaction history. The airport doesn't see you, it sees a passport number matched against a face scan. To almost every institution in your life, the version of you that actually matters isn't the one standing on the room, it's the one written down somewhere else. This isn't some type of deception, right? It's just true, and it's been true since the first census was ever taken. What's changed in today's day and age is only the scales, which means the question this video is really asking isn't what is data, it's if you're made out of data and every system around you is actually made out of data, what happens when someone learns to organize the data better than everyone else? Here's where most explanations stop, right? They stop too early. They say Amazon organizes demand and move on. That's partially true, but it's also fundamental to acknowledge that it's only the shallow version. The deeper truth, ladies and gentlemen, is something that is far more deceptive. Amazon doesn't really know products, it knows relationships between products. It knows that someone buying baby formula is statistically to buy diapers in the same week. It knows someone ordering hiking boots is more likely to buy a backpack the next week. Compare that to something like a suit. Nobody at Amazon decided this by mere intuition. It fell out of organizing billions of purchases and noticing which ones kept showing up next to each other. Amazon isn't selling you products, it's discovering relationships inside human behavior and using those same exact relationships to guess your next move before you've actually made it. Netflix works the same way, one level deeper than you actually think. It tracks what you watch. It has noticed that people who finish a slow burn crime drama on a Tuesday night behave differently from people who abandon it after one episode. And it can predict from your first 10 minutes with a new show whether you will go on to finish the season or not. It's not organizing shows, right? At this point, it's organizing the relationship between your attention and your patience. Google actually goes on one level deeper, right? Because it goes on to organize information. It has noticed that the words you type when you're panicking are structurally different from the words that you type when you're just curious. A search for chest pain won't go away gets treated completely different from why does my chest hurt when I laugh. Not because a human is reading it, but because the relationship between the phrasing and the urgency has been learned from billions of past searches that has been recorded on the search engine. Banks go one level deeper, right? Because on the surface level, many people think that they organize ownership, but they've noticed that fraud doesn't look like a single suspicious transaction, right? And there's just a scenario that I'm talking about. It just looks like there's some break in the rhythm, right? In the whole chain, in the whole rhythm. A person who always spends in the same 3 kilometer radius suddenly spending 800 kilometers away 40 minutes after their card was used normally. The fraud alert isn't reading your mind, it's actually reading the relationship between your past self and your present self and flagging the moment they stop matching. Do you see the shift? In every case, the real asset was never the individual data point. It was the relationship between data points, the thing no single purchase, search, or transaction reveal on its own. But thousands of them, compared against each other, when combined and clubbed, reveal something instantly. And it's safe to come to this conclusion that with a shit ton of data, you can actually come up with some exciting patterns. That's actually link 3, right? Which is a pattern isn't a fact about one event, it's a fact about the relationship between many events, and it only exists once you've organized enough of them to actually compare. Once you have a pattern, something remarkable happens. You can predict what hasn't happened yet. A pattern across a million commutes predicts your traffic before you've even left the house. A pattern across your own spending predicts a fraudulent transaction before the fraud is even confirmed. A pattern across a hospital's patient predicts a crisis even before the nurse or the doctor walks past the bed. And I think it's safe to make this prediction that patterns are prediction, which, ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at link 4, which is once you can predict something, you can act on it even before it happens, which means the decision gets made for you quietly upstream of the moment you'd normally think a decision was being made. Predictions can turn into decisions very quickly, which is link 5. Do that reliably at scale across millions of people every single day, and you just don't get one good decision, you get an entire system that runs better than it would if humans were deciding case by case. Decisions turn into systems, and that is link 6. Here's the full ladder, and I want you to actually picture it because you're going to see it everywhere after this video. Reality, which is link 1, information, which is link 2, data, which is link 3, patterns, which is link 4, predictions, that is link 5, decisions, that is link 6, systems, that is link 7, and civilization, that is link 8, which is from the reality you go on to pick some information. That information is then summarized and turned into data. That data is matched across millions of data points, right? Millions of other data points that is actually stored in the system, and you can take out few patterns. The same patterns are used to make some predictions, right? Which the businesses can use as decisions. And once those decisions are working, they're actually implemented in the systems, and that go on to shape civilization. Every example in this video, right from the grocery bill to Amazon and Netflix and the fraud alert, is really just one climb up this exact ladder. Nothing about it is unique to just the technology alone. It's unique to the way these companies are actually organizing it faster than any company is able to do it, faster and more accurate than any company has been able to do it in the history of mankind. So here's the question that is actually worth sitting with, and it's bigger than what makes a company so powerful. Every company you think is selling something is actually learning something. Amazon looks like it sells products, it's actually learning the relationships hidden inside human desire. Netflix actually looks like it's selling entertainment, it's actually learning the relationship between attention and patience. Google looks like it's actually selling searches. It's actually learning the relationship between language and intent. The most valuable companies in the world don't own the most buildings, right? In today's day and age, the most valuable companies in the world understand the most information and, like I previously mentioned, are able to process it more faster and more accurately than any other company in the planet. And once you see that, a stranger realization also follows, which is the world's largest companies aren't competing for products anymore, they are actually competing for better models of reality. Whoever can predict what a human being will be able to do next most accurately wins, regardless of what they appear to be selling on the surface. That single idea changes how you look at Google, Amazon, Netflix, Tesla, every artificial intelligence company, and every government service you have ever used. They stop looking like different industries, they start looking like the same climb up the ladder, just at fundamentally different speeds. You probably heard this phrase, which is data is the new oil. And I don't think that's right, or I just don't buy into that statement. And the reasons that I'm going to state below are things which I feel genuinely matter. Folks, oil gets consumed, right? You burn it and it's gone. Information gets consumed, but it compounds. Every pattern a company discovers makes the next prediction easier, which makes the next decision better, which feeds back into an even sharper pattern next time, and this cycle just keeps compounding. Oil runs out, organized information gets stronger the more you actually go on to use it. That's why the companies defining the century aren't necessarily building the best products, they are just building the best models of reality, the most accurate map of how humans actually behave, updated in real time, faster than anyone standing outside the data could ever possibly imagine by intuition alone, by mere intuition alone. And once you actually go on to recognize that, you stop asking the question most people ask about a company, which is, what does this company sell? And you start asking a question which is more fundamental, which is, what does this know, or what is it trying to interpret? Right? Because underneath every app you open today, every company you actually admire, every government service that you actually use, every purchase, every recommendation that felt like just knew you, there's the same ladder quietly running. Reality turned into information, turned into data, turned into pattern, turned into prediction, turned into decision, turned into a system that shapes the entire moment of your life before you've even noticed that something like this is actually happening to you. That's not how technology works. That's just how civilization has always worked. And we have finally have had names for the ladders and has systems that are smart enough to actually interpret the same pattern that has been using us for so many years and decades.